Join the battle to defend science. Get your copy of my book today. I still don't have a job, so Kent's gonna help us pay the bills.
And behind you there's the evolutionism family tree.
Oh, yeah.
Professor Dave, related to a strawberry.
Yeah.
Yeah. I got a bunch more to add to that tree, brother. I asked him, are you related to a snail? Yeah. You related to a strawberry? Yeah.
Yep.
You related to a cockroach? Yeah.
Yep.
They really believe that.
Well, no, we know for a fact that it's true because we share genes in common with them. And that's the only thing that genetics even can tell you. If you haven't seen it, it's pretty hard to watch because there's a lot of microphone issues. But Gutsick Gibbon checkmated him on this so brutally in a modern day debate video years ago. She essentially asked him, if we know that genetics tells you if you are related and to what degree you are related to somebody else, and we know that it works within a species, you would use it to figure out how closely related, I don't know, two dogs are, two butterflies are, or two humans. Why does it not work across species? And even Kent believes that speciation can happen because he believes only a few thousand animals were on the ark and they turned into the millions of today, which means that new species are just popping out due to Darwinian evolution. They believe in it just to an extent. And every time she asked him it, he just tried to, he would say, well, if we look at all of the works of William Shakespeare, right, and we compare it to Harry Potter, we're going to find that they use a lot of the same words, but that's because they're using a similar design. The design is called the English language. The English language came about after the Tower of Babel was and all the people all over the world had and that's because the Bible is true. Or he said, well, a car, you take a car, and I'm pretty sure a car has wheels. Erica, would you agree that a car has wheels? Yeah, see, that's because cars have a common designer. Every single time he used an analogy to something that doesn't replicate, that doesn't create new versions of itself or anything like that, very much unlike life. Actually, he's talking about literature, books or whatever, which is hilarious because language is the closest analog to life, I feel like. And I use the language analogy all the time to talk about how languages change so slowly as to become completely different languages over long periods of time. And that's like what macroevolution is. And we know that completely different languages are still related, and we can tell which ones are more closely related by studying them. Studying the elements of words and parts of words and grammatical structure is so much like studying a genome. And then when she finally pressed him to try to stick with, nope, we're talking about genetics, not cars, he just floundered and said something about common design. And then he just started straw manning really and was just like, oh, so you believe in a purposeless nothingness. Okay, well, you can believe that if you want, but on Judgment Day, you're going to have to answer for it. He actually says that multiple times. Come Judgment Day. I'm Kent Hovind. Give me money so I can kill children at my theme park. I don't really know all that much about Diaper Donnie here. I only know he exists because Gutsick Gibbon has done some debates against him, and on his channel where he's the moderator, he does a pretty good job of being a moderator. But he apparently does all these really slimy 4 a.m, many hours long live streams where he just kind of attacks people personally. And so she won't associate with him any longer. I don't know, whatever. I don't really care. I can't be bothered enough to form an opinion. So there. What they're doing in this video, and I only watched a little bit of it, but they're actually taking questions, and I'm not even sure where the questions came from, but Kent is responding. It's kind of like after a debate, they do the Q&A. So he's responding to, the ones I saw were hostile questions, so I guess we'll see where this goes. But I only saw 2 of them, and I couldn't believe how stupid it was what he said, so I need to share it with you.
In order for evolution to even get a start, You got to have billions of years. And if you can prove the Earth is not billions of years old, which is easy to do, then that takes away their time.
We've already done this multiple times with him. I did an entire video where I went over him proving the Earth isn't billions of years old, and all he did was say, "Bah, the Big Bang, well, you can't get something from nothing, and you can't create order from chaos. That's impossible." So, blah, blah, blah. Never at any point did he even remotely try to address anything about how we measure the age of the universe. At no point.
I'm sorry. If I told you if you kiss a frog, it'll turn to a prince, you'd say that's a fairy tale. But if I tell you if you give the frog millions of years, it'll turn to a prince. Oh, now it's modern science.
Yeah, and he said in episode number 1, I don't know what he's talking about. It's probably something you have to pay for. There's not a chance I'm going to spend money on that. And I guarantee it won't be anything new. It'll just be him saying the Big Bang is impossible because he can't deal with the age problem. I've seen him do it one time. Somebody brought up the fact that we can see billions of light years, and he said, "Oh, any sophomore law student would tell you that just because we can see that far doesn't mean that it's that old." So,
still a fairy tale, guys. So my video number 1, if people want more on that seminar, I don't have my seminar. Bobby, get me a new, never mind. A new set of my seminar tape. But video number 1 is about the age of the Earth, about 30 or 40 different ways to
did you say tape? Is he selling VHSs? That would be hilarious.
prove it can't be billions of years old, period. If you need billions of years for your theory, sorry, get a new theory. Can't have.
Can you briefly talk about, because we got a critic here in the chat, and we always appreciate our critics and our skeptics. Andrew Cumming, he says, shrinking of the sun, you have to be kidding. And so by shrinking of the sun,
you're just not going to believe how dumb this is.
Can you speak to this a little bit? Is it the fact that the sun's losing mass? And so if you go back billions of years, it would have been a lot bigger, hotter, losing fuel. Can you speak to that, Kent?
I think it's obvious to anybody with one eyeball and working and half a brain cell working that the sun is up there and the sun is burning. Nobody argues about that.
It's not burning. It's doing nuclear fusion. It's not burning. So anybody with half a brain cell would come to the wrong conclusion. That's the argument. So yes, Kent, you are right. If you only have half a brain cell, which apparently is what you have, you would conclude that the sun is burning, even though it is not.
The sun's burning 4 million tons of fuel every second. It's burning. Go look at it. I got plenty of sun today.
Yes, during nuclear fusion, the sun converts some of its mass into energy. That's the burning that Kent is alluding to here. Now, 4 million tons per second, that's an unthinkably big number. I mean, that's probably multiple Empire State Buildings every single second. But the mass of the sun is about 2 times 10 to the 30th power. If we divide the mass of the sun by 4 billion seconds, because it's millions of tons, and I have the mass of the sun in kilograms here, the sun will last for 4.9727, so 5, times 10 to the 20th power. How long is that? 5 times 10 to the 20th power divided by 60 for minutes, divided by 60 for hours, divided by 60 for days, divided by 365 for years. I should have done 365.25, but whatever. That gives us 1.6 times 10 to the 13th power, or in other words, 160 trillion years. It would take 160 billion years for the sun to lose 1% of its mass. 160 billion years. I honestly can't believe that Donnie Diaper dipshit let him get away with saying this, because I'm pretty sure Donnie intuitively is smart enough to know that you can't, that can't work out for a young Earth creationist narrative. From what I've seen from him, he's not that dumb, but he is a Kent Hovind simp. It makes perfect sense that Kent is that stupid, and that he would bring this up as evidence that the sun can only be this is a thing that they do. And I don't think that he's lying for his narrative. I just think he's really stupid and doesn't look into anything. He he doesn't tell you that this comes to a date of what, like, they never give you data or numbers that specifically support a young Earth or a young universe or anything like that. They just tell you stuff that's supposed to instill doubt in the idea of 4.5 billion years for Earth or 14 billion years for the universe. But again, this doesn't even do that. This tells that if we just go with this, then we have hundreds of trillions of years.
In 1,000 years, that would take 31 billion seconds. At 4 million tons a second, if you go back just 1,000 years, the sun was heavier. Obviously, it's burning 4 million tons a second. So a heavier sun would upset the balance between the sun and Earth and all the other planets. It's a gravitational dance we're doing here.
No, Kent, that's not how that works. If the sun just suddenly, right now, got twice as massive, then would the Earth and all the other planets spiral into it? No. I don't have the training to like give this to you in equations or anything like that, but anything that orbits has an elliptical orbit. It gets closer and farther from the object that it's orbiting. If the sun suddenly got twice as massive, the Earth would get pulled closer toward it, but it would not spiral inward. It would eventually get to a point, perihelion, aphelion, I always forget which one it is, but it would get to its closest point and then it would start moving out again. It wouldn't go quite as far as it does today, but then it would come back and it would eventually reach a gravitational sort of equilibrium. This is just a natural consequence of the way objects orbit things. Now, yes, it's possible, and it does happen, like moons and meteors and things like that do get drawn into objects that they orbit. But this case with the sun, no. Also, notice how the narrative here is backwards. He's talking about if the sun would get heavier, it would draw the Earth in toward it. But that's not what's happening. The sun's always been massive. So the Earth could have never orbited the sun? What's going on here? And actually, if we just take his argument at face value, okay, if the sun's getting lighter, then the Earth should just fly away. Well, that wouldn't happen either. Eventually, the Earth would get farther from the sun and it would slow down because the farther away you are from the thing you're orbiting, the slower through space you move as well. But again, what he's doing here is failing to comprehend the actual math. Big number scare Ken, big number mean bad thing happen. Again, even at a rate of 4 million tons per second, it takes you 160 billion years for the mass to change by 1%. 1%.
Between the sun and Earth and all the other planets, it's a gravitational dance we're doing here. Is the sun shrinking?
Yes.
Since 1980, they've yielded different results. How much is the sun shrinking? The sun is burning, and it kind of oscillates. It shrinks and swells and shrinks and swells, but overall, it's tending towards shrinking. We've observed it for a long time. The sun is shrinking about 5 feet an hour. I don't know too many people that argue with that. Let's see. Sun is shrinking. In the last few sessions, we covered...
Okay, so the sun is shrinking, so that means it can't be billions of years old, because if we extrapolate outward, then it would expand to, whatever. The diameter of the sun is shrinking. Okay, now we know the mass of the sun, and we know the rate at which that's shrinking. We've been over it, 4 million tons per second. And again, it takes over 100 billion years for the sun's mass to change by 1%. If the sun were 1% more massive, would it be twice as big, 10 times as big, or anything like that? Obviously not. This thing about the sun shrinking in diameter by 5 feet per hour, I'm not even going to argue against it, but that doesn't get us to thousands of years, because what we know about the mass of the sun. I would bet all of the money that Kent never paid in taxes that what we're seeing is a particular slice of a cycle or a trend where the sun is going like this, and maybe it sort of has up and down trends that come in clusters. But it's like it's like a sawtooth graph. You know, it goes up and down as it moves along. You can zoom in on any part of it and say, look, it's going down, or look, it's going up. But you have to zoom way out and look at a large amount of data to see what the overall trend is. Now, he said we've been looking at this for a long time. I would bet it's only less than 100 years that we've been able to like actually track the diameter of the sun to the degree to which we can be precise within 5 feet per hour. I mean, that I'm sure is only a few decades, or maybe, I don't know. I still think 1980 was only like 20 years ago. So the idea that this tiny slice tells us is good evidence for only thousands of years is so stupid. Again, especially because we know exactly what's going on with the mass of the sun.
Numerous scientific evidences that Earth universe cannot be billions of years old. Evolution is, or time is the evolutionist pacifier.
And yet you never, ever deal with time. I mean, he did try to, kind of right there. I can see why he normally doesn't do it, because that was so bad.
When you take away time, they scream like a baby with no pacifier. So I cover on my video number 1 some of the scientific evidence. I'm sorry, the sun is burning and it is shrinking. That puts a time limit.
No, it does not.
How much? I don't know. There's too many variables in there we can't account for. But still, it is obviously burning and it's obviously shrinking. It's been measured. If you want to believe that's been going on for billions of years, at the same time keeping the balance between the distance to the Earth and the distance to the sun, if you think that balance has...
If I ever debate him, this is the only thing we're going to talk about, because this is pretty recent. This only happened like a couple of weeks ago, and it's just so catastrophically stupid.
...has been maintained, I think you're stupid. That's not possible. For the sun to be losing mass and the sun to be losing diameter...
Yep, 1% every 160 billion years.
...and to keep the Earth at just the right distance for life to evolve out of the slime. I think the burden of proof...
A Goldilocks zone argument, really? Ugh.
...proof is on them to prove that's not a problem.
That's right. That's a challenge that they need to engage and address. The burden of proof is on them. What would be a good response to this as a follow-up? They'll say it isn't shrinking. You just showed through the conventional literature, it looked like, Kent, that indeed it is. It's losing mass. He says it's growing and increasing.
Andrew, I don't know what you're talking about, because it's not growing, but it is increasing in luminosity over time.
In luminosity over time. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, like I said, as the sun burns, it goes through a cycle of shrinking and swelling and shrinking and swelling. Right. It oscillates because of the nuclear reactions going on inside. But observation tells us, and common sense intuition tells us, the sun is losing material. You see it flying off. The sun is losing material. If somebody wants to say the sun is increasing, where's this matter coming from? How?
You know, I haven't really commented on this at all, but he says matter and water. Oh, it's so cringe.
Can the sun be increasing in diameter? We know it's not increasing in diameter. It's not increasing in mass. It's losing in both. So, again, the burden of proof is on them to prove that's not a problem. They want us to pay for their religion to be taught in school. They want everybody to pay for the evolution religion, and it's nothing but a religion. It's not science. They want us to pay for that to be. But tell me how this can work.
Would eventually upset the gravitation. Your slide there nails it.
Mass. Show me how this can work.
Right, and your slide there nails it right there. It says that this problem would eventually upset the gravitational balance between Earth and the sun. A heavier sun would suck the Earth in. Well,
Diaper Don, you fucking dipshit. I don't know. He's either lying for Jesus, or he actually is as naive and stupid as Kent, because just intuitively you should know that that's completely stupid. But are people in the comments roasting him or not? Hi, Donnie. What academic credentials do you have? None. This entire channel is nuts. This debate is to debates as TLC's Honey Boo Boo is to learning. Yeah, TLC stands for The Learning Channel, which is the most ironic thing ever. Oh, look at this. You probably can't read it, but it says, why does Kent falsely insist the sun is shrinking, Even his own screenshot on that Institution of Creation Research article, The Sun is Shrinking, shows an editor's note that the original 1980s article was wrong. The fact is, because the sun is losing mass, the size has to increase because there's less mass to fight against the outward pressure of the nuclear reactions at the core. Oh, yeah. I should have known that.
I've only done 362 debates, Donnie. I want to get to 1,000 before I die. I'm 71. Come on, get me some more facts before I die. Okay?
That's right. That's our goal. Get you to 1,000 and get you to 1,000 ASAP. We'll do one nearly every day.
Dang, Bro's gonna go 0 and 1,000. That would be crazy.
If we've got enough of those willing to take the challenge. So here you go, Kent, one of your biggest fans, creationist crybaby. Kent, nice. The moon is receding. So this goes back to the recession of the moon. Again, you use this argument. I know you used it in at least one of your recent debates. I'm pretty sure you used them in both, and your interlocutors did not have an answer.
I actually talked about this in my book.
So the recession of the moon, the fact that it's moving away from us, this limits the age of the Earth. Sure, it doesn't give us exactly 6,000 years, but it limits the age of the Earth.
It doesn't give you anything remotely close to 6,000 years.
Earth in the sense it doesn't give the evolutionists their 4.5 billion years to take their goo to you. So Ken, can you speak to that? And you know what? I'll read his comment, see what he's saying. So he's saying the moon is receding at about 3.8 centimeters per year. Since the moon is a certain amount from the Earth, isn't this consistent with an Earth to moon system billions of years old, Ken?
No. Next question.
Yeah, short and sweet, brother.
Okay. Again, it's obvious. It's observable science, and it's obvious intuition. The moon is moving away about, like you said, 3.8 centimeters or 3. What was the number? I'm sorry. 1.5 inches a year. It's been observed. It's measured. The moon is moving away from the Earth. Spaceplace.nasa.gov had an article about it, where the moon's moving away. We know why. As the moon goes around the Earth, it creates a tidal bulge on this planet. That tidal bulge creates a drag as the Earth spins. That tide is keeps banging into the continents. It's creating a drag that slows the Earth.
Kent, that's correct.
Down. The energy is transferred to the moon, and the moon is moving further away. It's been.
I don't have any gold stars, but that was actually pretty good. Very good, Kent.
Observed. It's been measured. It's been proven. The moon is moving away about 1.5 inches a year. I don't know anybody who argues with that. The question is, how could that go on for billions of years? And the answer is, it couldn't. See, we're this whole rabbit trail around right now, Donnie. Sorry for my throat. I've been talking for 4 days straight.
Ugh, yeah, gross. So anyways, I've seen this claim before. They claim that if you do the math, do the numbers, the moon is like basically touching the Earth it's like 1.5 billion years. Now, I don't think that's the number you get by dividing the current rate of recession by the distance from the Earth. I think that number is way bigger. The dynamics change a lot when the moon is much closer to the Earth because of the difference in the gravitational force of attraction between them. I will just take their word that if you take where the moon is today and the rate of retreat that we see, that when you run it backwards, you get 1.5 billion years. I will, that's fine. Because what this leads their argument to be is, at most, the moon could have only formed 1.5 billion years ago. Therefore, the Earth is 6,000 years old. Again, there is this much, zero supporting evidence of the Earth actually being only a few thousand years old. And it's to take this and say that it debunks billions of years, or that it even debunks the 4.5 billion year narrative. It's so dishonest. You can argue that it's counter to 4.5 billion years ago. You can make that argument, but it in no way supports specifically 6,000 years ago. I mean, it's off by a factor of like 3 for our worldview, but let me do the math. It's off by exactly a factor of 250,000 for your worldview. Regardless, we have to accept, no matter what position you're taking, we have to accept that there's something more going on here. There are other variables at play, whatever they are, but it clearly leans in the direction of Earth being old, not young. But what's very convenient for them is because everything is predicated on miracle. That means anything can be explained by the data. I thought about this the other day when I was just sitting around by myself, because that's what I do, apparently. And it's weird that I've never thought about it this way before. But what people like Kent do is they make their God fit the data. They do not, because the data does not fit their God narrative. They construct a narrative for how their book and the God they believe in and whatever else can be explained by the data, instead of looking at the data and coming to conclusions about what the data says. They are drawing conclusions about their God based on the data. Now, they claim they won't. They'll claim that they get everything from the Bible, but in the end, what they have to do every single time is excuse all the problems by saying, oh, the data looks the way it does because my God made it that way. It's a subtle but very important observation.
This is only to rescue the first ingredient they need, which is time. All of this is they desperately need billions of years.
And you desperately can't do anything about the billions of years. He's so obsessed with time.
And they know full well, if you take away time, their whole...
But doesn't do anything about it. I mean, he tries to argue against evolution, but he doesn't even try to argue against time.
whole theory collapses. Now, I would so quickly point out, Your Honor, even with billions of years, their theory collapses. Because time makes things worse. Things fall apart. They age, they degrade. It's the second law of thermodynamics. Things are falling apart, not getting better. So time is not going to help, okay? Time's going to hurt. But the moon is leaving us about 1.5 inches a year. This has been studied. Let's see, this is astronomy.com a couple years ago. No, astronomy, why the moon is leaving from moon's orbit. The moon is not in a circular path. It's in a slight oval, but the oval is enlarging 3.8 centimeters a year. Okay. Our moon has slowly been drifting away for 2.5 billion years. Well, really, how come they're saying it's 4.6 billion years old? And what started it drifting away?
I skipped through some stuff, and he's saying things that we've heard him say a million times before. Now, I have no shame in doing a lot of Kent Hovind videos, but I'm not going to listen to him say the exact same thing and comment on the exact same thing over and over again. That would be too... I can't. I've never heard him make the argument about the sun and the moon before. I found one other thing here that I have heard him talk about, but I've never addressed it. Here we go.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, hang on. It's also, their whole thing is predicated on the false idea that there's a geologic column and the layers are different ages. There is no geologic column.
Yes, there is.
They say the top layer is younger. They call it the law of superposition. Superposition, okay? If the top layer is younger, I got a simple question. Where'd all that dirt come from?
The Earth.
They're saying the Holocene is only 10,000 years old, but the Archean is 2.
Well, it comes from erosion, weathering erosion, deposition, compaction, cementation.
2.5 billion. Where was all this dirt sitting around for 2.4999 billion years waiting to land?
He doesn't know weathering erosion.
Get the glare off. Okay. There's no geologic column. Doesn't exist anywhere in the world.
Yes, it does. You guys love the Grand Canyon. There's I don't know what he meant by that. So, how do we... This is so stupid. So, like, if every single grain of dust on the Earth could be dated, then no matter what we tried to date, presumably we'd get the same ages, right? So the top layers can't be younger than the bottom layers. That's not how it works. You can't really date sedimentary rocks because they don't have any radioactive isotopes in them to date, or if they do, because it's a conglomeration of things, you're going to get multiple different ages. So how do we do this? We do it with volcanic depositions, or that's the most common way that we do that. I always had a problem conceptually with figuring out how this works, because if the magma comes from inside the Earth and the radioactive isotopes are inside the Earth being radioactive and decaying, that's the primary reason why it's so hot inside of the Earth, then shouldn't every volcanic eruption give us 4.6 billion years old? What I learned later on is that when you do argon dating, argon is a gas. So volcanic eruptions, you probably know, are caused by a buildup of gas pressure, carbon dioxide, and steam, essentially. That erupted material carries with it the radioactive, it's either argon-argon or potassium-argon. Off the top of my head, I don't exactly know. But argon is a gas. So when the erupted volcanic material comes out, if you've ever seen pumice, actually, let me go get some. I think this is scoria, not pumice. What's really cool about it is it's iridescent. You can kind of see it there. But I got this off of an actual volcano in Idaho, of all places. There are Craters of the Moon National Park in Idaho. It's a really fantastic place. I'll put some pictures of it up here if I can remember to do it during the edit. Anyways, those trapped gases, they escape from the pyroclastic material. So what that means is when this erupts, because those radioactive gases escape, the timekeeping aspect of it starts from scratch when it comes up to the surface. Because to measure how much time has gone on with radioactive decay, you have to measure the ratio. Well, the gases all escape. So our ratio resets at 100% parent material, 0% daughter product. When we find volcanic deposits and things of the same nature embedded amongst or in between sedimentary layers, we can get a rough window of, okay, well, the sedimentary layers are no older than this, or no younger, older, or whatever than this. And then if there's another one over here, we get a time estimate for those layers. And we've done this countless numbers of times. So early on, we had very vague, rough estimates, but now we have pretty precise estimates for everything.
Are these layers coming from outer space? Are they being added to the Earth? They're being
No, weathering and erosion.
reshuffled is all they're doing. Shuffling up doesn't change the age of it. If I shuffle a deck of cards, is the top card now younger? If I flip,
Like, in a weird way, he's correct, but still wrong at the same time.
my sand art toys over, which annoy the atheists on purpose. Love annoying.
Oh, I haven't seen him use that in a long time. He uses I used to have one of those and it got broken. But yeah, he uses it to show you can get all these layers forming in one event because they want to imagine the Grand Canyon, all those layers formed all at once. It doesn't work at all because those things don't actually sort by density because you have a trickle of sand coming out. You're supposed to inject air into them. The way they work is really cool. They're awesome little decorative pieces.
Are these layers going to be different ages in here? No. They're all in here at the same time. There's no fossil record. There's no geologic column. Stop right there, guys.
There's no fossil record? What? That's all the stupidity I can handle and any of you deserve to be subjected to for one day. But thanks for watching.